we might actually be seeing a anime version of Death Stranding. The source is Vogue Japan, which I will leave a link to this article in the description below. It came out May 28th, 2025 for all of you who are curious. We're not going to go through the whole article. If you want to, like I said, it's on there, but we'll start here, where he's talking about working with A24 on a live action, in addition to the anime, a live action film adaptation of Death Stranding. And he says, when it comes to film adaptations of games, there have been, recent films. Like he references The Last of Us that kept the plot of the original story intact. And he also says films like Super Mario Bros., they're more of a fan service. I mean, that may have been their goal, but let's be honest, if it really was a fan service, they would have, maybe started off by using the voice of the person who actually voices Mario in the games and has for decades, instead of Chris Pratt. It's a fun movie, yeah, but anyway, that's neither here nor there, I'm just saying. But we all know that he's a film lover, right? He loves cinema, and it shows in his games very, very prominently. He goes on to say that he's aiming to make Death Stranding in a way that can only be done as a film, and that will win awards at the Cannes Film Festival in Venice. And here's where he says about the anime: we're also currently working on an anime adaptation, which, very cool, very awesome stuff. Kojima-san is on fire. Okay, this dude is cooking with all the burners on. He goes on to talk about that in the future, the boundary between games and movies will disappear. And to be honest, I already, personally, viewed video games as interactable movies. Some you could actually change and decide the outcome of the conclusion. And others, are very linear, like, let's say Halo, for instance. Very linear, you can't change the ending, but in every single game, without a shadow of a doubt, you can always change the journey to the conclusion. Especially in Halo. Sure, you could just run up, this hill or whatever, or you could take a page out of Mint Blitz's book. You could find an overshield, throw a plasma grenade at the wheel or directly underneath your Warthog, and jump in the gunner seat right before it explodes, and create your own space program to the destination you need to go. So for me, they always have been like that, and it's actually really cool to see that that is what he's trying to do, is really blur and destroy those lines entirely. And it says that that's what he's aiming for. And that this would be the first phase, of Kojima Productions. It would be to, it was to create the IP Death Stranding and deploy it on various devices. It goes on to say here, and this is quoting, and to produce movies and sequels. The second phase is to create works in which the boundary between games and movies is as ambiguous as possible. For example, a game where people watching the screen while playing the game will mistake it for a movie. By using the same assets and creators as the movie, we are planning to create such a work. Very cool. I'm very down for that. And as I said, it's very obvious that, he's very, very much into cinema, as it shows in all of his games, but beyond that, his graphics fidelity with Death Stranding is wild. It's very clear that he is trying to make it look as realistic as possible with each generational jump as he can. Been trying to get the most out of whatever operating system, whatever console, PC, game, whatever game engine he can to make it as realistic as possible to help blur those lines even farther. So, whatever generation of consoles or PC or wherever consoles are going next, it's going to be even more realistic, and I'm looking forward to that, because graphics are already insane. So, we don't have to go much further before it's just, mind-blowing. But he goes on to say that, after the second phase of trying to blur the lines, that the third phase would be to create a new form that is both game and movie. The fourth phase is to create an IP in a movie and turn it into a game, or to create something brand spanking new. He goes on here to say that we've only just reached the surface of the moon, but it is a distant and endless goal. like aiming for Pluto from here. And I, for one, am very happy that, like, despite how far off even he sees it to be, that he is still stalwart. He is still marching on towards that goal, no matter how far or how difficult it is to attain. And I personally enjoyed Death Stranding. I did think it was a little bit too walky. There's so much walking and covering distance. However, I will say, because he was left to his own devices to just do what he was doing and create his own vision, there was actual purpose to it. Unlike a lot of the corporate cookie-cutter, forced-out slop that happens. And I very much realize that one of the reasons why is not only for you to process the just insane stuff that is going on in this story. They give you downtime, but Death Stranding is about life and death in between the afterlife and all of this stuff. It's very heavy subject. So he gives you these beautiful horizons, these beautiful venues, these places to come across and walk across and sit and maybe even have, your character nap or whatever. He gives you these purposeful windows so that way you, as your own individual experience, can think about that. Potentially have your own existential crisis. But to have a beautiful view and enough time to do it with. And it's very purposeful. Everything that Kojima does is purposeful. And I respect that a great deal, because it shows in the quality of his games. And so, that is the news that I got for you guys today. Very cool stuff. Let me know in the comments how you think the anime is going to go. How awesome do you think the anime is going to be? Or do you think both of them are kind of going to be blech? Or if you're simply excited just to see what's coming out next, like this new game that he's going to be working on, Physint? Something like that? Physint, I think that's how you pronounce it. Also, one quick little quip. There were some people who were complaining that he announced, and I believe this was Physint, I would have to look into that, I haven't looked into it yet, but that he announced that he was going to be, making something, and the release date was probably going to be 5 or 6 years in advance. And a lot of people are complaining about, why do you even bother telling us, so early? Honestly, though, that really is a courtesy, because there's plenty of game studios that don't tell you how long it's going to take. They don't tell you if they're struggling, if they're not. You have to find it out from leaks on Twitter and stuff like that. But with him telling us right off the bat, hey, I'm going to be doing this thing, it's probably going to be taking this long. If that's something you look forward to, cool. I'm just letting you know. Very much time in advance. This is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. I personally prefer the straightforwardness, and I prefer the early information. Because really and truthfully, right now we are in a game drought. There are really not that many games that are good right now, especially for Xbox. So this is actually really nice. This is really nice information because, realistically, and not to make this video go on for too long, there's a lot of slop that's turned out, especially now, but the amount of good games we have now, it pales in comparison to how many good games we had in the past. I mean, the corporations are getting greedier, they care less and less about the devs, and it shows in the current quality. So whenever a solid creator or a solid studio that's not under the foot of, some corporate asshat tells me, hey, I'm going to be making more games, I'm happy about that. That's good news. So I don't care if it's 5, 6, 10 years early. The fact that I know that something is good that's going to come out that's actually going to be worth it is coming, I welcome that good news. But that is all for today, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did and would like to receive more videos like this along with my build videos, you can go ahead and subscribe to get your weekly content. If you'd like to help the channel grow, well, all you gotta do is comment and share. Easy as, done and done, all free. And with that, I hope y'all have a good day, a good night, and may RNG be in our favor.